Hello and welcome to this How to Kickstarter campaign. My name is Kim and I'm going to be walking through step-by-step guide to things to consider when you're setting up a Kickstarter campaign. So when you're starting with a Kickstarter campaign, you really need to sit there and think about what am I hoping to achieve out of it. So in this discussion, we're going to be talking about a few things that go into setting up a Kickstarter campaign. First thing we're going to talk about is what to consider before you start. Next thing's going to be like details and documentation that you need to have all together and put in place before you get going and while you're putting together your campaign. What to do, what things to think about, and what things you can do to help have a successful launch, as well as then finally having the promotion and actually getting your campaign all the way through the time that you have to be running it so it is a success at the end. Let's have a look at things to consider before you start. Before you start, you really need to, the first thing you need to think about is actually Kickstarter the right platform for you to work on for your campaign. Kickstarter does run a creative platform. It is really good for any creative projects that are kicking around. The audience that it targets is a very creative fundraising audience for creative projects. You've just got to make sure that your project is creatively useful. It is also open for like technological challenges as well. Anything that has sort of a creative bend to it. Any project that's going to be having a product at the end of it is also really good within the Kickstarter framework. It does have its requirements, so just check out the documentation, but make sure that your project does fit within a Kickstarter framework before you even start. Define what you want from the outcome of the campaign. You can run a campaign for so many different things. You might be running a campaign only for part of a project, or you might be trying to boot a campaign for a whole project from end to end. Think about what you want to achieve by running a campaign to see if it can be broken up into chunks or how big a scope the actual project's going to be as well. You need to know if you can commit to running the campaign. Not everyone at the start of a campaign has a lot of money to be able to run a campaign. So you've got to, for whatever project you're actually putting in. So you need to sit down and think and work out just in your head whether you can commit the time and the resources to running a full campaign. Again, you might want to be splitting up your campaign into different goals and different milestones and making it smaller chunks which you can achieve and then step up to the next point. If you run a full campaign, the thing with Kickstarter is it's all or nothing. If you don't make your set target, you get nothing. So if you've got a large project with a large scope attached to it, you might want to consider breaking it up into smaller targets so that you can reach each target and then from the next target point launch into the next project that you've got going forward. Do I have the team in place to be able to facilitate the campaign? Again, if you're only running a small campaign, it might be something that you can do in your own time out of hours if you're still working and just running a small campaign. But if you're launching a full campaign to launch a full-time project, do you have the team already in place that are ready to be able to make the campaign run at a full tilt? And do you need your whole team in place to run the campaign? Or do you just use your team at the end of the campaign if it's successful? So just be aware that while your campaign is running, if you've got people working on it, that the campaign itself may not be generating any income for you. It is an income asset. At the end of it, you may have a chunk of income that comes in, but during the time that the campaign is running, you'll have no money coming in from the campaign itself. Details and documentation. These are the things that Kickstarter actually require. They're basically the topics which are talked about. So I'll run through these quickly and then we'll go more in depth into them as we look at them. So the topics which they have in place are basics, rewards, story, people, payment, review. Let's have a look at what the basics actually entails. The basics is really just the real how you explain the project in as short or many terms. This is where you actually give your audience an overview of the project before you get into the details of it. So it starts off with what category does it sort of fit in. Like with creative projects, there are a number of different categories that Kickstarter actually allow for, and it's just really easy. They've got a drop down menu and you just kind of slide your project where it best fits in. Project title. Every project needs a title, so that one's just really short. I think it's 130 characters, which you just need to put your title into. The next one is then location. If it's location based, like a lot of digital projects aren't restricted by a location, but for any sort of government standpoints or anyone who's actually looking to invest into a project, they do like to know where the project is based. The next thing is an image. Definitely always want to have an image of some sort about what your project is about. So it doesn't matter if you're, a complete technophobe or not, you can always find someone who can have some sort of image related to the project that you're working on. Again, this is just the overview image. So if you've got something that's going to capture attention, you might have a marketing department you can work with, or you might just have a friend who can mock you up a image of what you're going for. But of course, the more captivating the image you're going to use, the more people are going to actually want to find out more about the project. The project video is an optional part of the basics page, but you get a higher percentage of people actually wanting to know more about a project. Video nowadays is so prevalent that nearly anyone can capture a video, even with your phone. To a certain point, the more polished the video, the more people are going to want to watch the video that you're actually talking about. You don't need, the video itself may just contain details about the project and give a broader overview of the project that you've actually got in place. But with a video, it does have a higher retention rate and it's got more interactivity for people to be able to find out more details about the project itself. Of course, a funding goal for what it is. So if, how much you need for the campaign, what the campaign's trying to raise. And the final thing is then the duration of the project. How long is it going to run for? Projects can run up to 60 days. They recognize that a campaign can run up to 60 days, but you can have a lot shorter projects, a lot shorter campaigns run as well. The rewards. So the rewards are the part that people usually end up getting invested in. I'd recommend actually putting quite a lot of time and thought into the rewards that you put in place. Definitely do some research into what rewards are. But if you can find a project that has been successful and you actually just look through their rewards and just see what rewards they were offering, you might be able to use theirs as a template, especially if it was a successful project. If you use their rewards tiers as a template, it's going to be putting your project in a better stead because you can found something that people already want to invest in and are familiar with. So if they come across your project with a similar sort of reward structure, they'll know sort of what they're looking for. With the product, it's all with a reward system. Always think about adding value to the product you're trying to actually produce. Value is something which doesn't always have to be a monetary value that you actually put into it. A lot of people like just getting behind the scenes footage or development parts of the project in place. So a lot of people will always like, the concept art or technical drawings of what you're actually trying to put together. You might be able to just put a bundle of artwork together or a bundle of technical documents that go along with the final result. But be aware that adding value can mean a lot of things to many different projects. Every project has a story. The story with the development of the project, the story of the campaign, the story of who you are as a person and why you got into the project and how the campaign came about. A compelling story and the way the story is told is always more captivating for an audience, which is what you're trying to do when you actually run a campaign. A good story is better for engagement. What you're trying to do is actually get your audience to want to go through with your story and actually support the story you're telling. it doesn't matter what the project is, if the story you've told about the way it's being developed, and if you include people into the way it's developed and the outcome of the campaign that you're running, they're going to want to be more engaged in it, and it's a higher possibility that they'll actually want to shell out money to be involved. So if you can include your audience in your campaign in some ways, may come back through the rewards, they're going to be more inclined to then want to support the campaign that you have running. Try to be as open and transparent as possible, because people will want to invest in honesty. If you don't really want to be getting a bad reputation with any campaigns that you run, it'll set you up in a bad light if after your first campaign, a lot of people kind of find out that, the campaign, the rewards you offered don't come up to the standard they were expecting, or you don't even deliver the rewards or what was actually advertised within your campaign, then that's going to come around for the next time you try doing a similar thing. People are going to know about it. So it's a lot better to be honest about your campaign and about what you're actually going to provide with the support of backers. And you've got to also be confident in the product. The best person to sell the product is you. So it's your product, you should know the most about it. So be confident in your selling of the product and the way you present your product, because that will also then give buyers or investors more confidence that you're going to be able to deliver on what you're actually saying you've got. And include a budget within your story. A lot of projects include a breakdown of where the money or where the money that they're going to get is going and how it's divided up. It doesn't have to be accurate down to every single cent, but it's got to be in a broad ballpark of saying, this is where the money we're going to be this is where we're going to be investing the money and what it's going to be going towards. That's what your campaign is about. So make sure you include that in your story. And the last thing that Kickstarter actually require is for you to do a risk analysis. Just so everyone knows who's investing in it, what risks there are in investing in it, and what challenges you think you're going to have to bring that campaign to fruition. It's a good idea, again, to be transparent as possible. Because if you just sit here, if you just say, look, there's no challenges at all, then there's not going to be much of a story that goes along with delivering the project. Some people might like that, but again, a lot of people actually like investing in someone who's going to have a story that goes along with it, so that when you do deliver it, you can look back over the term of a campaign and go, what, people have invested in it and they've come along for the ride with you, and they've enjoyed the experience of actually seeing this project come to fruition and blossom and get to the end. So always be aware that your risks and challenges, you need to actually include them and talk about them, because they are part of the story that comes along with your project. Always talk about all the people that are involved in the project as well. Remember, it's not just the people are not going to just be investing in who's involved in the campaign, but they're also going to want to know about all the people that are going to be affected by the campaign when it is completed as well. So all the people that have supported you or you're going to be working with after the campaign has ran its course and is concluded and successful, then what impact is that successful campaign going to have on other people? Then once you've actually gone through all of the backlog of stuff that Kickstarter require, and then they'll also run through a checklist themselves. You've got to submit the project. So once you've submitted the project and then they've got back to you and say, yes, it's ready, then the next fun part is actually launching the project. There's probably a few things you need to do before you launch though. If you can build anticipation before the launch, and it's usually only a small percentage of people that actually get a campaign all the way over. If you've got some close-knit friends and family, they're always the best people to let know that you're actually going to be launching the project. You may have lined up investors before you launch as well. Make sure that they know that your launch is going. The more buzz you can create about the project before it launches, the bigger and higher the ranking of the project will be when it does launch. So that's really what you want. You want to have quite a big explosion of both social media and presence around the web when you do launch, so that tangible web of information gets spread really quickly and to more people, and more people are chatting about the more people that are chatting about the project when it does launch, the higher possibility that more people are going to see it and the better success rate you're going to have. All comes down to exposure. Once you get the exposure, you need to push exposure, and that's most of what you're going to be doing during your campaign, is trying to build the exposure to the project and to the Kickstarter. Because the more exposure, the more people are going to be able to see the project, and the more people are going to then invest in it. Promotion is then what you do throughout the campaign. Now, there are so many different ways of promoting a campaign. You may just take to, depending on what sort of product you've got, you may just have an email list that you send it out to. But definitely don't be limited to just social media. Most people know Facebook, Instagram. There are so many other ways of promoting a product as well. You've got to get creative with your promotional methods. Beyond just Facebook, posting pages on Facebook and Instagram. You can also run like video campaigns. You can include YouTube. You can also go through, different avenues of like doing just radio launch or newspaper launch, or even do a poster launch, which you take the videos of while you actually do it, and then use that to launch your product in different ways and get different exposure. But be creative with the promotion method for the Kickstarter, because again, it should be a fun process, and the more fun you have, the more exposure you're going to have as well. But also be aware that it is a lot of hard work. The more money that you're actually asking for, the more you're going to have to promote to get it. So the more work, the more legwork, and the bigger reward at the end of it as well. So just a final wrap for things to consider. Remember, there's quite a lot that goes into a campaign. You got to remember about everything that you need to set up before you start. The planning stage of it is actually a lot of the fun, because that's where you get to have a good idea about what sort of shape your campaign's going to have, what's going into it, and what you're really hoping to get out of it. The execution of the campaign doesn't take long through Kickstarter. Actually writing out everything doesn't take long. It's the prep work that takes time, and then running the campaign through however long the period that you have. It's going to be the most fun, but it's the most hard work. But also, if the campaign is successful, it's also going to be the most rewarding part of it. When you get to the end and go, you know what, our campaign is completed, it is then also the start of the work as to what you promised afterwards. But the campaign's only a small part of a bigger picture, and running a campaign through Kickstarter is not hard. It's not actually using Kickstarter itself is not a huge learning curve. It's really helpful. It's really straightforward. There is a lot of documentation that comes along with it on the website to help you get through. So if you've got a creative campaign that you want to get on, I definitely recommend Kickstarter as running a campaign for a creative project. I wish you all the best and good luck with your campaigns. So to see a Kickstarter campaign in action, please check out the Palmerston Ridge Kickstarter. Links will be included in the description below. Thank you for working through this Kickstarter campaign how-to guide with me. I hope it's been of some assistance to you. Please leave a like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.